Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dick Fleming. During the Viet Nam War in 1968-69, I was a member of First Force Recon, a long-range reconnaissance team that we went out along the Laos-Cambodian border, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, seeking to determine what the enemy was up to and conduct ambushes and do prisoner snatches and things like that. But today what I'd like to talk to you about is my experiences as a Marine Paratrooper. Many Force Recon guys had gone through jump school at Fort Benning, as did I. We were trained by the Army instructors at Fort Benning, Georgia. And we had to do 5 jumps in order to become jump qualified. And that enabled us to wear the little silver insignia of a parachute on our utilities, as well as we were able to wear jump boots. And it sounds silly today, but those things meant a lot to us at the time. It signified that we were a unique elite unit, and we were recognized by the other Marines as being something special, or at least that's the way I felt at the time. Whether or not that was actually the case or not, I don't know. Maybe it was all in our own minds that we were special that way. But in any case, I wrote about my experiences in my book Chasing Charlie, which is available on Amazon. And if you also are interested in this area, I have a firstforcerecon.com is my website, and you can see pictures there and links to other resources, so you might want to check that out. What I'd like to talk to you again about today is my experiences in Vietnam. I might do another video about our training as with the Army at Fort Benning, Georgia. But right now, I'd like to talk to you about my experiences while we were in Vietnam, because in order to receive our $50 a month extra hazardous duty pay, we had to jump every month, approximately. So that gave us $50 in hazardous duty pay. As if we weren't in hazardous duty enough. we had to do that. I say had to. It was really something that I enjoyed, and most of the other men did also. Generally, we jumped out of helicopters rather than out of fixed-wing aircraft, the way we had done at Fort Benning. And those were really nice jumps because you weren't pushing yourself out against the prop blast of a propeller-driven plane. I did have the experience of jumping out of a jet one time, and in that case I didn't have to worry about pushing myself out because as soon as I got near the door I was sucked out. But the helicopters we jumped out of were the C-46s that we used in our normal missions, and they had a big ramp in the back. And all we really had to do was trundle off the ramp. There was no prop blast to buffet against. And the C-46 was moving relatively slowly. So those were nice jumps. And they were mainly static. They were static line jumps, where we were attached to the static line in the aircraft. And when we jumped, that line pulled the ripcord. We weren't free falling. Although we did. We were trained in that, but in this case that I'm talking about, we did the static lines. So there was a chant that we used to sing when we were running. See if I can remember it. Stand up, hook up, stand in the door, yell right out and count to 4. And if your chute don't open wide, there's another by your side. And if that chute don't open straight, you'll see St. Peter at the pearly gate. That's goes one of our running songs that we used to sing, and it's probably pretty good, pretty honest reflection of the way things were. We did have the reserve in case the original chute didn't open, but still, there were other things that could go wrong as well. For example, one time when I was jumping, I was going out with behind my friend Slim. We generally paired up, two people. One would check the other's gear. Each person would check the others to be sure that everything was on straight, and we had a good hookup to the line. So we were checking each other to make sure everything was good. And when we were jumping, we usually try to go out right behind the other, because that way, as the aircraft moved through the drop zone, we'd be landing close together. If we waited too long, we'd be spread out. The idea was to get a nice tight stack, they called it at the time. So we tried to jump out, relatively quickly, right after one after another. But in this particular case, when Slim was waiting in the doorway, he was the first guy out, and I was right behind him. As soon as he jumped out, the helicopter must have hit a gust of something, and the jump master, who was responsible for letting people go, hit my back and sort of pushed me out right behind him. And I remember falling and seeing Slim right underneath me, and then his chute expanded, and then my chute started to fill up. But because I was right underneath him, my chute didn't open all the way, and I fell right on top of his chute. And that was bad. It was bad for two reasons. One, the chute could collapse around me, enfolding me in silk, and I wouldn't be able to, even if I pulled my reserve, I wouldn't be able to do anything, because I'd be enmeshed in his lines and everything, and then he'd be falling as well. So that was one reason that was no good. And the second reason is, even if I had managed to inflate mine partially, his was still, not billowing out to its full diameter, and so we'd both be falling. And then when when Slim hit the ground, I'd fall the additional 30 feet or so that it was, with all of it from his parachute down to where he was on the ground, because it would just collapse underneath my weight. So those were at least two of the things that could have gone wrong. But I landed on his chute, and I could feel it sort of give underneath me like a great big feather bed, and I sort of bounced along, and he looked at me. He looked up. He saw me, my footprints are above him, and he goes, Rick, get off my chute. God damn it, get off. Well, I was doing my best. I was moving across, and I walked right off the end of his chute and fell off to the side. And as soon as I did so, fortunately, my chute inflated, because it was no longer he had no longer taken my air, so I was able to get my chute inflated, and I flew down right next to him, so we both came down together. So that was quite an experience. Let me tell you, that never happened to me before. But other things did. I remember one time we were jumping off of Red Beach, and the jump master was watching the smoke on the ground, and it was blowing. The smoke was blowing into the beach, and I was the first guy on the stack. I could see which way the smoke was blowing, but he gave me the signal to jump, and I jumped out. I was the first one out. And as I looked down, I saw that instead of the smoke being blown toward the beach, the smoke was now being blown away from the beach. The wind must have changed in the short time that I had jumped. And now I was falling, and I wasn't sure that I could make the beach. So I had a lot of gear on as well. We jumped, with our rifle, and we had our packs and our knives and all of our equipment. Maybe not hundreds of pounds. I'm not going to say that with all of our stuff, but a significant amount of weight attached to our body. I would have just sunk like a rock if I had fallen into the water. So what I did was when I pulled down on my risers, because if you can pull down, you could turn the chute that we had, and it would give you some amount of control, some amount of forward motion. And of course, we did that when we landed. We always wanted to face into the wind, because if we were falling and moving at 10 miles an hour forward, and the wind was at 15 miles an hour against us, we'd only be landing with 5 miles per hour. Whereas if we landed with the wind behind us, we'd be landing at 25 miles an hour, which is a significant difference. Well, anyway, I had a decision to make. I could either drop off my gear, cut it all off, and just hope that I could stay afloat, or I could pull down on my risers and get whatever amount of forward motion I could get to try to make it to the beach. And I had only a few seconds to do that. Well, a few seconds, maybe 10, 20 seconds to make that decision. And so I pulled down as hard as I could on my risers, like doing a chin-up. And the chute started to bank, and I could feel myself moving in closer to the beach, but I didn't know whether I was going to make it or not. And they had told us in jump school that if we pulled the pins on the risers, that it would spread those cords that held the chute up, and you get a lot more control over the parachute. And for a second, I thought I was going to do that. I was fiddling around with those risers, seeing if I could find the release to pull those risers and get more control. But unfortunately, the wind died, and I just made it into the beach, maybe about 10 feet in is where I landed in the sand. So I was pretty shook up about this. And one of the other guys came from the beach, one of the support guys, and he said, "Geez, you really didn't make it." And I said, "Yeah, I nearly pulled my risers." And he said, "What are you talking about, pulling your risers?" And I explained to him, the theory behind it. And he goes, "Listen, man, these are not Army chutes. These are Navy chutes we're jumping with. You pull that doesn't extend your risers. Those are quick releases. If you're being dragged along the ground, you pull those and the chute goes off." And so what I would have done, if I would have pulled those release tabs on there, those release toggles, I would have fallen straight down, and I wouldn't have had time to even consider opening my reserve chute. I would have fallen right into the water, no question about it. But these things happen, they're just one of the things that happen. One time we were doing a night jump, and we had my entire group was in a helicopter, and we were flying to our drop zone, which is supposedly a nice sandy paddy, good place to land. And what happened was, again, the aircraft turned like this, and the crew chief hit the jump master, hit the first guy in the stack, and 3 other guys immediately went out right after him, 1, 2, 3. Well, that's great, but at the time they weren't at the drop zone. In fact, the helicopter was going over a mountain at the time, and the mountain was about 1,100 feet tall, and I think that we were jumping right around 1,300 feet. So as soon as they said later, and they were okay. They said as soon as their chute opened, they hit the ground. Just instantaneously, the chute opened. They looked up to check it, and they hit the ground. And they spent the night there on that mountain or that hill, all alone. not knowing where they were or what had happened. And of course, we didn't jump after them. That was just canceled. But it could have been a disaster. They could have fallen and been killed. Well, fortunately, that didn't happen. We had good jumps. It was something I looked forward to. After approximately, I think it was after 5 jumps. We were considered to be qualified Marine Paratroopers. Well, as I said before, we were given a silver jump emblem, which was a silver parachute after jump school. But to be considered a Marine, after 5 jumps, we were given a golden emblem. We replaced the Army emblem. So this was the Force Recon jump school emblem. I've kept it all these years. It has, and after our 5th jump, there was a group of us there. The major called us to attention and took us off to the side of the field where we were jumping in, and he told us to take off our jackets. So we took off our jackets, and he went up to each guy, and he took the pins off the back of this emblem here, and it's attached by a little clasp with a pin about maybe 3/8 of an inch long, and he put the pin on the person, on each one of the Marines' chests, and he smacked it with his fist. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know if this was going to be an initiation into a elite fraternity or what. But those pins went into us, and we were still at attention. The blood was dripping down our chests. But that was the way that we were initiated into Force Recon as a qualified Marine Paratrooper. So these, I don't know whether they still do that today or whether they're considered verboten, but that was the way that we were treated, and we didn't mind it. I mean, it was really nothing. It's not like a, if he would have come up to us with a K-bar and started carving USMC onto our chest, that might be one thing. This pin, even though it looks like it would have caused a lot of pain, after the first punch, it was nothing. So I hope you enjoyed the story of my jumps, and if you do, please subscribe to the channel, and look forward to talking with you again. And wish you well. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. I'd appreciate that as well. Thank you very much.